Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, for listening, for watching, for viewing, for subscribing, following. I appreciate y'all more than you could possibly know. A couple quick notes, and then we're going to dive in today. And this is going to be, and I promise you, not a long episode at all. I'm aiming for maybe 20 to 25 minutes. But first, a couple quick notes. Number one, the video for this episode is kind of, sort of not a video. Long story short, I'm not going to bore you with all the minute details here, nerdy tech stuff, but got some brand new gear literally today, and in the process of getting it all together and configuring it. Long story short, have not had an opportunity yet to sync the camera up with the audio mixer, so I cannot do a video. However, we're still going to put some up on YouTube, but all it's going to be for today's episode, and hopefully today's episode only, it's going to be the audio version of this along with a static image. So if you listen, or normally you watch, I should say, Talking Buffalo on the video side, you'll be able to go to the channel and at least play today's episode. And speaking of, I was scheduled to have a guest for this episode, but again, long story short, something happened last minute and we were unable to connect. Hope to get him back soon. But one of the main topics that we were going to talk about today, and now I'm going to make this a singular topic episode, and that's Damar Hamlin and fans showing what I like to call some real hater behavior when it comes to Damar. Oh, one last other thing too. As I record this, I'm recording this directly into our mixer. I live in the Buffalo area itself. And if you live here late into Wednesday night, you might know this. The weather is just absolutely fucking horrendous. It is windy out like crazy. The internet is down at the house. So I'm recording this now, hardline into my mixer, and I'll get it up on Apple and Spotify and YouTube and all that stuff as soon as we get internet again. But anyway, back to today's episode. Like I said, when it comes to Damar Hamlin and just fans showing some real negative ass reaction towards what he said this past week. And there is some Damar Hamlin news. He said he'd like to end his career in Pittsburgh someday with the Steelers. And we'll get back to that in just a second. In a way, it's kind of like flown under the radar, at least a little bit. But, and I get why too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with football right now. I mean, you got, this week is the NFL draft combine. You got players from teams around the league who are big name guys that you know of that are starting to get released, getting franchise tag like T. Higgins has in Cincinnati. Some players are getting contracts restructured, redone to help their team out with the cap. We saw that earlier this week at the Buffalo Bills, who redid, or reworked, I should say, Carter McGovern's deal to put up, I think they saved $3.74 million in salary cap for the 2024 season for the Bills. So anyway, there's just a lot of shit going on, and some things kind of fly under the radar, at least a little bit. But in a way, if you're paying attention at least, this Damar Hamlin stuff is not under the radar. And I'm going to be honest with you, because quite frankly, kind of has me pissed off. Not because of anything Damar Hamlin said. I want to make that real clear. Hell no. Not even close. Dude was from Pittsburgh, played college at Pittsburgh, grew up around there, wants to play for his hometown team before he hangs up the cleats. Good for him, man. Good. But that's not my issue. My issue is this. The reaction, I got to be real careful too, because it's not a lot of fans, but it's enough fans. The reaction represents everything I hate about sports fans, and even to some extent, content creators. Here's what I mean more specifically. We want athletes to be honest with us when they speak. We want athletes to be forthcoming with us when they speak. We want to hear what they're really saying. We want them to speak their truth. But it seems sometimes, at least for a lot of us anyway, that's only the case when they're speaking the narrative that we want to hear or that we want to see. You know, we get annoyed. We get mad when athletes and coaches, they say the same boring ass lame shit time and time again. All the same stupid cliches. And I feel like we zone it out. We think to ourselves and we talk amongst each other saying, man, I really wish these guys would just say what they really want to say. Enough with the whole, oh, we didn't execute today, or, we still got faith in this guy, or, yeah, I want to be back with the team. I love my team. Of course I want to be here. I love it here. I love everything about it. Yada, yada, yada. And don't even get me started with head coaches, because they're even fucking worse. Coach speak, oh, good God. I mean, we think in Buffalo we have it bad sometimes when it comes to vanilla, bland coach speak from a guy like Sean McDermott. Just imagine being a New England Patriots fan and listening to Bill Belichick's press conferences through the years, week after week. Actually, I would trade that for all the Super Bowls he got. But that's another story. You get what I'm saying. These coaches don't say shit. A lot of these players don't really say shit. And then, every now and then, you get a guy who shoots from the hip. He opens up. He's honest about things. They're forthcoming. And people just jump down their ass. Got to be a big story with tons of negative reactions. We just saw this past week, Deion Dawkins, no shirt wearing ass on some show, talking shit about the Jets, which I love it. Give me all the bulletin board material. I want all of it. I'm here for it. I respect Deion Dawkins for talking his shit. Hell, I respect him more for that than I do as a football player. And I respect him plenty as a football player. I just love that shit, man. I just love guys who are not afraid, or in some cases, they're even enthusiastic to say what they really feel. The problem is that is just way too far and way too few between, because the majority of the athletes, the majority of the coaches, they talk a lot, but they never really say shit. And then on those rare occasions, like I said, when someone is willing to shoot from the hip and they're just being honest, speaking their truth, we just jump on their ass. And I'm going to be real clear now. This is certainly not with respect to Damar Hamlin's case here. This is certainly not all Bills fans or all fans, period. Not even close. It's not even a majority. In fact, I bet you it's like at least a relatively minority percentage. I think a lot of people are probably indifferent to what Damar Hamlin does for the majority of his career. That probably represents the majority, but still, it's more than enough people out there with their comments and their reactions for me to be triggered, at least to some extent. And, and I certainly understand Damar's point of view right now. At least I interpreted it. I had no issue with it. Some of you did, though. And I kind of want to talk a little bit here, being solo today instead of having someone else to discuss this with. And again, I'm not going to be long-winded with this episode like I usually am. But I'm going to kind of put into evidence a little bit exactly why so many of these athletes and so many of these coaches and so many of these GMs and team personnel, they're guarded. They're as guarded as they are because of exactly things that happen, the reaction you get from fans when a story like Damar Hamlin's comes out. And I know for some people, by the way, who are probably sitting there listening or watching this saying, what in God's name are you even freaking talking about, man? Because again, this is flown under the radar in some circles, what Damar said. So what I want to do is I'm going to read the meat and potatoes to you, man. I got one specific report about Damar Hamlin this past week. It's a Sports Illustrated post. And I'm going to read the whole thing, and then I'll let you digest it and consume it and think what you think. And then I'm going to read it, take a quick break, and then I'll have a couple thoughts after that as well. But this is the story in its entirety, word for word. And this is one of the shorter posts. Of course, there's many variations of the same thing, and I'm just choosing to read a post from Sports Illustrated. It reads this. Pittsburgh native and former Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is one of the biggest names in the NFL. After returning to the league after one of the scariest incidences professional football's ever seen, he became a national icon. And before he finishes his playing career, he's hoping to land with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Speaking at an event hosted by Steel City Collectibles, Hamlin said he has playing for the Steelers on his bucket list and would not mind finishing his career with his hometown team. This is a direct quote, Damar says. I think ending my career finishing as a Pittsburgh Steeler would be a dream, Hamlin said. I played at Pitt, so you know I was in the stadium. I played at Heinz Field probably for like 8 years straight between WPIAL championships and Pitt. So a dream come true would be finishing my career as a Steeler. The Central Catholic grad became a star at the University of Pittsburgh before becoming a 6th-round pick in the 2021 draft. In 3 years in the NFL, he's played 34 games, including 13 starts. The Steelers could be in a market for some safety depth this offseason, and head coach Mike Tomlin has only praised the character and work ethic of Hamlin whenever talking about him. Getting to watch him throughout high school and college, maybe the Steelers do take a chance at the local kid in free agency this offseason. All right, so that's the article. Like I said, the post from Sports Illustrated in its entirety. I do want to point out one thing that is not in the article that maybe it should be, because it talks about the Steelers being in the market for some safety depth and, possibly signing Damar this offseason. Damar Hamlin is not a free agent. We'll get into that in just a second. But anyway, for those who didn't know, that's the story. Damar Hamlin, speaking at an event in Pittsburgh, a card collecting show, said that playing for the Steelers has always been on his bucket list and that finishing his career as a Steeler would be a dream. And boy, oh boy, fans did not like that. Let's take a real quick break. I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you some examples of what some people are saying. And then I got plenty of thoughts of my own. All right, I am back here, singular topic today on the show, talking about Damar Hamlin expressing a desire to finish his career as a Pittsburgh Steeler, where he grew up, and nasty reaction from a lot of fans. And I want to be clear, too. I'm going to say this again. Not all Bills fans or Bills Mafia, whatever term we want to use here, not all of them immediately responded with what I like to call hater behavior in the comments across various social media platforms. For me, primarily, it was Twitter X that I was locked on reading. A nice chunk of fans, including many from Buffalo, had nothing but continued love and continued support for Damar, and they completely understand what he was saying and why he was saying it. Again, this is his own town, man. This is where he's from. But, oh man, some of y'all, probably some who may even be listening to this podcast right now, you took a really sharp turn and went straight to nasty town. Whether it was Steelers fans saying, nah, we don't want him, or Bills fans out there, turning heel on your boy. This guy was one of the most beloved figures in the history of Buffalo about a year or so ago. And now he makes a couple comments, and some of you fans out there are turning heel on your boy like he was Hollywood Hulk Hogan turning his back on WCW, stabbing them in the back and forming the NWO back in like the late 90s and shit. I mean, I read everything from he sucks to he's only in the league because he almost died, or the Bills only kept him this season because he almost died, to he's a bum, to he needs to get cut, to good for him. We loved him. He's turning his back on us. This is how he's going to treat the fans that love and supported him, to the fake punt being his fault. And then just some stuff. And, I like to run my mouth on here. I'll swear here and there on the show. But there was some shit that I read. I'm not even going to dignify it by repeating it on this podcast. And I mean, what the percentage of negative responses, and I only care about Bills fans for the purpose of this discussion, the percentage of negative responses compared to positive ones about what Damar said, I mean, I don't know. I can't give you a real answer here. But it was enough. It was enough negativity, enough hater behavior it almost felt like kind of demoralizing reading a lot of this shit. And I want to make this clear too. I have absolutely, positively 0.0, professional or personal connection to Damar Hamlin whatsoever. But I'm going to take up for him here because I think this is bullshit, a lot of this reaction. And I want to address, some of the stuff about Damar as a person, and in this case, also more specifically as a football player. I mean, we all know he's a good guy. We all know the story. We all know what happened in Cincinnati. We all know the comeback, the triumphing comeback. We know that. We've seen him talk. We've seen him win awards. We've seen what a genuinely good person he is. I don't even need to tell you that. You already know that shit. Well, some of y'all forgot real quick, but most of you know that. But let's just talk football for a second. And for starters, please, can we please stop talking about that fucking fake punt bullshit? Yeah, Damar Hamlin took the ball and it got stuffed. Didn't even come close to working. And for the record, didn't even end up mattering. I want to put that out there too. People out there who just look for reasons to find, a reason why the Bills lost instead of the real reasons. They point to that fake punt. And I'm here to tell you, shit didn't even end up mattering anyway. It didn't matter that they got stuffed on a fake punt deep in their own zone because Jordan Poyer saved the day. Jordan Poyer knocked out the football at the half-yard line as Kansas City was about to score. Ball goes into the end zone, touchback, no harm, no foul at the end of the day. But anyway, it's not Damar's fault it didn't work. Sorry, my voice is getting a little bit hoarse here halfway through the show. But, instead of maybe blaming Damar Hamlin for having nowhere to go, maybe you might want to direct a little bit of your ire towards Quinton Morris or Tyler Matekovich or like 2 or 3 other guys out there at least who all whiffed out their blocks. Or even better yet, let's get on Sean McDermott for signing off on that bullshit play. There's a lot of people to blame for the lack of execution on that fake punt. And Damar Hamlin's not one of them, folks. I'm sorry, but he's not. And as for his standing on the team, this is obviously my personal opinion. Others may vary. But I think Damar Hamlin's roster spot on the 2023 Buffalo Bills was earned on the merit of his talent, the ability of his play, as much as it had to do with what he had to go through to get back on the football field. And I truly believe that. I really do. As great of a story as Damar Hamlin was, again, the ultimate triumph in sports and life. As great of a story as that is, I honestly, truly, in my heart feel that if Damar Hamlin was not deserving of making the roster, that the Bills would have moved on from him. But here's the thing. The Bills kept 5 safeties, which is not uncommon. It's not uncommon for the Buffalo Bills. It's not uncommon for any NFL team to keep 5 safeties. And guess what? Damar Hamlin was the 5th best safety on this football team. So you had Jordan Poyer, you had Micah Hyde, and those are your 2 starters. Then you have Taylor Rapp, the free agent signee. You have Cam Lewis, who's Mr. Versatility on this defense. He could back up safety, he could back up slot corner, hell of a special teams player. And then you had Damar Hamlin. Damar Hamlin was the 5th best safety. And if he wasn't, who was? Are you going to sit here and tell me that Dean Marlowe should have been the 5th safety, should have made the team over to Buffalo Bills? Because, I mean, if you are, just stop that shit. For real. And I think it's also worth mentioning that, you know, when Damar Hamlin got hurt last year and almost died, it wasn't like he was the 53rd man, on the roster. It wasn't like he was a guy who was inactive all that season, who just happened to be active that night, who just happened to be on the field on that specific play, wrong place, wrong time. No, he was starting that game. You know, after Micah Hyde went down early in the season, I think it might have been week 2, and it became apparent really, really quick that Jaquan Johnson, was not going to be a suitable replacement. It was Damar Hamlin who got into that starting lineup, and I thought he played pretty damn well for the majority of 2022. I thought he was actually really strong. I remember a lot of plays, especially in the first half of the season, where I'm like, man, this kid looks really good, especially for a first-year starter. But and then as the season went on, I do think he was fading out some. I think he hit a bit of a first-year starter wall down the stretch for sure. And this is before the injury, which, again, not all that uncommon. But you look at him, and this is a dude who was a 6th-round pick. He earned his way onto this football team, and then he earned his way onto the football field. Nothing was given to Damar Hamlin, and if it was, it certainly wasn't by the Buffalo Bills. It was earned. And I truly believe, that this past season, he earned his way onto this football team because he was, again, one of the 5 best safeties on this football team. So to say he only got kept because he almost died on the field the year before, to me personally, I just think that's stupid. And again, there were even way more ignorant comments that I'm just simply not going to repeat today. And another thing too, about the article maybe specifically, or the stories that are going around saying, well, Damar could just sign with Pittsburgh. Gotta mention, Damar ain't no free agent right now. Not now anyway. So for people who want Brandon Beane to cut him over what he said, which, God, that's so dumb. But again, if you think that's dumb, try reading some of these comments on social media. People want Brandon Beane to cut him over it. And I promise you, again, I saw plenty of these with my own eyes. Not secondhand information. Seeing it with my own eyes. But I look at Damar right now and I'm like, this is a team at the safety position where Micah Hyde is probably done. Maybe done in the NFL altogether. Almost certainly done with the Buffalo Bills. Jordan Poyer is still under contract for another year. But who knows if he's going to be back. I mean, that is a big cap number. And there's lots of other factors with the Bills and the cap and money. But I'm not sure it's a lock that Jordan's back. But even if it is, and I hope it is, because I definitely want Jordan Poyer back. But you got him near the end of his career for sure with the Bills. Who knows? Taylor Rapp's a free agent. Cam Lewis is an unrestricted free agent who might get some looks actually from around the league for what I just said a few minutes ago. He's a versatile guy who could play multiple positions in the secondary. And you still just want to cut Damar Hamlin at a position that you might be thin with to begin with? It doesn't make sense to me, especially when you factor in the dude is only going to make $1 million this year. So on a team that's got a lot of guys with some big-ass cap numbers, a team that's going to have to restructure, maybe even cut a couple guys. They're going to have to go easy in free agency, stuff like that. And you got a guy with proven NFL starting experience on your roster that's only going to count for $1 million against the cap, and you want to cut him? Just make it make sense to me, folks. Make it make sense to me, because this doesn't. And lastly, maybe it's just me, but on a personal level, man, I don't see any disrespect to anything Damar Hamlin said. I just don't. I'm a Buffalo guy, man, born and raised in Buffalo. And guess what? I did not take it as a slap in the face in the least, what Damar Hamlin said. You know, if a guy grew up in Buffalo and he came up and let's say he went to Timon and he was a star at Timon, or he went to UB or somewhere local. Let's say UB is the only big school around here. God, it's starting to sound like a lot like Damone Harris, ain't it, folks? But anyway, you come up through the city, you go to school here, this is your hometown, you go play somewhere else, and you're asked in your hometown, would you like to come back and finish your career at some point where you grew up? You're going to be mad? You expect that guy to not say yes? I don't think Damar said one freaking thing wrong. Not one. He's from the area, man. He's from the Pittsburgh area. He played college at Pitt. He played in that stadium. It's home. He's a hometown boy. Good for him. A lot of you guys and girls, and by a lot, maybe, that's an exaggeration, but at least a notable percentage of Bills fans, you're acting like Damar Hamlin took a knife and he stabbed you in the back. All the love and support and well wishes, you rain down on Damar Hamlin. You feel betrayed because he'll leave Buffalo to go finish his career in the town he grew up in. Just weird. It's weird to me that you would think that. And to put a wrap on all this, I guess I keep going back to that honesty thing. And it's like, damned if you do and damned if you don't with these players. I've had a chance to talk to plenty of NFL players, plenty of athletes on this podcast. And before I even had the podcast, some of them current athletes who are still playing, many of them former athletes. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. Completely honest. For a lot of them, getting them to have a good quote or a strong take about anything, it's like pulling teeth. It really is. And I used to get so frustrated and sometimes even confused by why these guys who got so much money, in some cases, so much clout, so much power, they just never seem to say anything of substance. And for real, I'd be like, what's the matter? What are you afraid to say? Why are you giving me or whoever you're talking to the same cliche, boring answers? You're talking a lot, but you're not really saying anything. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it is with a lot of these athletes. And I never really understood it. And it used to bother me. But now, it's the stuff like that just went down with Damar Hamlin. It makes me totally understand it now. The guy was in Pittsburgh. He was asked a question about his hometown. I mean, what is he supposed to say? Would you be happy if he said, no, you know what? I want to remain a Buffalo Bill for my entire career, and that's it? Which maybe he does. Maybe he could still be a Buffalo Bill. It's a two-way street. Maybe he wants Pittsburgh Steelers. That don't mean they want him anyway, just to point that out. But you get what I'm saying, man. And to wrap this all up here to conclude, I just think it really fucking sucks that a guy speaks his truth. He does it with no ill will whatsoever, yet way too many fans take it as a personal insult and a kick in the nuts to them and to the Buffalo Bills football team that they so richly love. It just is sad, man. It is sad. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. And again, one last thing. If you're listening to this and you've listened to this whole episode, you're probably not one of them. You're probably not one of these people who were unreasonably angry and annoyed with Damar. It could be okay to say, all right, you want to go there, go there. I don't care. That's not a hater. That's not hater behavior to me. If you say, go do what you got to do, or even, okay, bye. That's fine. I'm telling you. Some of you, though, the hating shit, oh my God, it's just unbelievable. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. It's going to do it for today. Thank you again very much for listening. Like I said, the video, I apologize. There's only the audio on YouTube with the static photograph for today. I do plan on having a full video of our Fan Friday episode, which will be tomorrow. Talk to you then.